Hello, Madan, Shantaram, are you there?
Sir, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. Wait for others to join the meeting. And if you are there. Navya has joined now. I'll unmute your video, mute your audio. Okay. Who else has joined now? Shantaram is there, Madan, Navya, Raj.
Sir,
Yeah. Anybody else joining? Umesh has joined for the first time. Is it not, Umesh? Pradeep Vijaykumar has joined. Pooja has come in. Ashika is there. Who else? Can you hear me on? Yeah, unmute your videos. Otherwise, I will not mark it. Only Ashika has unmuted. Unmute your videos. You want mute audio, mute audio. Mute the audio, unmute the video. Otherwise, I will mute all your audios because I am hearing some cross talk and sound, TV sound, vehicle sound. Rashmi has come in. Oh yes, 8 are there as of now. Ganesh Raikar has come in. 9 number is still far behind. Yeah, it's 1 o'clock. Srividya has joined now. And Srividya, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Nishant is connecting. Adarsh G. Mute your audio, mute your audio. Unmute the video. Mute. Rachana Mandre. Yeah. Pranav Hegde, Prasanna Kumar. Number is 14, 15. Divya. Then Who else has joined just now?
Sir, Rachana Mandre.
One second, one second. Rachana Mandre has joined. Okay. Rakshita Hebbar has joined.
Sir.
Yeah. Kaushik for the first time. Kaushik, I think this is the first session in corporate valuation you are attending. Okay. Shweta Mary has joined. Now the number is 18. Unless it reaches 33, the quorum is 33. Minimum 50%. Sharanya, Pavitra, and who else? Number is 20 now. We'll wait for another 1 minute. Number is 20. Very, very less. Okay. Let others join, walk in at their convenience. We start. The whole thing is getting recorded. Please note. Okay. Yeah, that's all. I find no new names. 21. We stuck at 21. Okay, let me start sharing the screen with the PPTs. 103. Yeah. This is this unit, that is unit 3. Can you hear me? All of you? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Fine,
Yes, sir.
fine. Now I mute again. Mute your audio. This is all about the advanced issues in valuation in unit 1 and unit 2. We have learned about the basic approaches or methodologies of corporate valuation, multiple approaches, multiple methods under different circumstances are available for an evaluator or an analyst. Now in the third unit, we have been examining the various advanced issues in corporate evaluation. They might relate to the different situations, corporate or business situations. They might relate to different types of companies, and they might relate to different types of problems that you might get to see in different companies in different contexts. So in this regard, in the last class in slide number 13, we had noted about the valuation issue concerning the liquidity. We had noted that investors generally prefer or value liquidity very high. They would be willing to pay more for liquid assets than for otherwise similar liquid assets. So generally, the investors in the market would value an organization which has got more liquid resources or cash resources than one which is having illiquid assets. You might be owning the Mysore Palace, but if you don't have 10 rupees, you will not be able to have your afternoon lunch. You cannot show the Mysore Palace, or you cannot mortgage Mysore Palace and go to a hotel and have your lunch paying 50 rupees. So what is important at times is the cash in your pocket. So investors generally value organizations or companies having high liquid resources, high cash resources, which are sitting on huge cash resources, very high than comparatively other companies with not much cash resources, even though they might be having a lot of fixed assets. So that is another issue a valuer or analyst has to take into account. What the market looks for in an organization, what the investors look for in an organization while buying its securities or while buying the company or while buying its assets. Cash or liquid assets are valued high, or companies with liquid assets are valued high compared to companies with not so extensive liquid assets. So that is another point, another issue as a valuer analyst you need to know. The next thing is about the synergy. Synergy, we know the simple equational meaning of synergy is 1 plus 1 is not 2, but it is 3, or 2 plus 2 is not 4, it is 5. We know the combined impact of different variables, different um, assets, different types of resources. Uh, Standing separate, standing alone, they might be producing some results, but if they are combined, there could be what is called the synergic effect, which would add additional or bring in additional value, additional result, additional outcome to the exercise that we call the synergy, right? Combining two or more factors or resources and trying to extract a higher than their arithmetical sum. That is what is called synergy. We have noted this in MACR. There are two kinds of synergies. One is operating synergies, removing the duplication, complementing each other processes, utilizing the idle resources by one unit, idle resources available with the other. There would be a lot of operating synergies in terms of reduction in the cost of operation, reduction in the wastage, increase in the productivity, increase in machine hour, increase in or decrease in variable cost per unit, sorry, fixed cost per unit, reduction in variable cost, etc. So there might be a lot of operating energies if two different resources complement each other so as to avoid duplication, avoid redundancy, avoid repetition. That is what is called operating synergy. Whereas financial synergies is an organization might be having high cost borrowings, whereas another company might be having low cost borrowings. If these two can combine, then the company with high cost borrowings would be able to trade off or spare off its high cost borrowings with the help of the low cost borrowings of another company. This is called financial synergy, the combined effect of the financial resources. With different resources have got different cost of their own, and naturally, if these different components of the capital structure or financial mix are combined, there would be some kind of synergy in terms of reduction in the interest cost or financial charges, in terms of the overall reduction in the cost of operation, increase in this one, what is that, profitability, increase or decrease in the tax liability. For example, a profit-making company takes over a loss-making company. That loss can be set up against the profits of this company, thereby bringing down its tax liability. This is reduction in tax liability is an example of financial synergy. So while valuing a company, the valuer or analyst is required to take into account the effect of or the operation or playing of different types of synergies in the organization. He should not simply go by the academic arithmetic textbook valuation methods. He need to investigate deep and he should try to find out if there are any synergies that are emerging in this organization. And naturally, organizations or companies having or enjoying such operating synergies or financial synergies will have to be valued higher than their counterparts which do not enjoy such operating or financial synergies. So you should not look at the valuation as a simple arithmetic or mathematical exercise. It is more than that. You have to go behind these numbers. You have to identify. You have to try to identify whether there are such synergies present in the company, and you have to increase the valuation appropriately or change the valuation appropriately That is one issue you as a valuer or analyst is required to understand and factor in your valuation process. The next challenge or a problem or an issue, you can say, countered by a valuer and analyst is about the complexity of certain companies. All companies are not simple, organized or managed or administered. Their operations might not be very transparent. They might not be very simple or linear. They might be multi-stage, multi-layer, multi-processes, multiple procedures, multiple systems, rules, regulations, etc. So from a valuation perspective, please see the next slide. Are you able to see the slide? Hello?
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
No, you are not. See, this must be appearing on your
No, sir.
screen.
No, sir.
You-
No, sir.
No, sir.
Is,
sir.
is anybody able to see the slide?
No, sir.
No,
Not
sir.
even, not even one. How come?
No, sir.
No,
Sir,
sir.
you have not shared.
No, sir.
Yeah, I think sir has been not shared that screen.
Is this appearing now?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Huh?
sir.
Has it come now?
Yes, sir.
Probably the system is very, very active. It is acting as a sensor. If you have dozed off, the slides would disappear from your screen. So keep awake, stay awake. Is it not? Now let me enlarge this. Are you able to see now?
Yes, sir.
Now fine.
Yes, sir.
Now see the content of the slide from a
Yes,
valuation perspective. Some firms are relatively transparent, very open, very open, very professionally managed. Everything is transparent. Everything is in black and white, as they say. Everything is in writing. There is nothing like the whims and fancies of one person or a group of person or a family member. Everything is very systematic, very organized, very transparent. Others are relatively complex. It is not, especially family managed businesses. For example, take the examples of two of these tech giants, Wipro and Infosys, or Wipro and TCS. TCS is a very professionally managed company, so the things are very transparent. But there are issues with Wipro. It is basically, even though it is a public limited company, it is still family managed business kind of company. So not everything is forthcoming, not everything is on the table, as they say. Things are not very transparent there. So while valuing a company, the value analyst might face such challenges. In some companies, the things might be forthcoming, information might be forthcoming. It might be very easy to interact with the officials, managers, or senior managers, or even the directors. In some other companies, these fellows might not be forthcoming with the complete information, all the information required for a good job to be done in valuation. So that is a issue countered in the process of valuation. So some are comparatively transparent, information freely available, openly available. You can visit their website, everything is put up there. But in some companies, it might not be the case. The paper might not be forthcoming to share the information. That's one. The complexity or such kind of issue might be on account of different factors like accounting malpractice. So the company might be indulging in a lot of accounting malpractices. So it might not be transfer, it might not be forthcoming, it might be hiding some information. It might be changing the accounting practices frequently to its advantage or to manipulate the accounts for the purpose of tax or to evade the tax, and hence they might not be openly sharing the information with the valuer or with the analyst. And tax regulatory requirements. This is one issue everybody is concerned, everybody is afraid. If I share some information, it might reach the tax authorities and they might start some inquiry, some demand, additional demand, some levies, etc. So everybody is concerned, so they might not be forthcoming with everything associated with their incomes, losses, profits, businesses, turnover, etc. Fuzzy accounting standards. Fuzzy means the fake accounting standards. We have the accounting standards like Ind AS or the GAAP, and all companies, all listed companies are required to follow these steps and prepare their accounts with respect to the disclosure and disclosure requirements, etc. But there might be some companies which might not be adhering to these accounting standards. They might not be preparing their accounts as per these generally accepted accounting practices or principles. So they might be coming up with their own depreciation procedures, valuation of closing stock or whatever. So in all these cases, they might be following their own standards. And since they are aware that they are not adhering to these generally accepted accounting standards, they might not be very forthcoming in sharing, but they might not be openly sharing their accounting and financial information. They might be afraid of being caught, right, by the regulatory authorities, by the company law authorities, etc. Increase disclosure requirements. Especially now the things are being eased. Otherwise, with the Companies Act in India having about 700 earlier, having about 700 sections and subsections, it was a big job disclosing everything for a company. So there might be a lot of confusion, there might be a lot of overlapping, lot of duplication, there might be a lot of omissions and commissions in your disclosure practices. And as a result, as a valuer or an analyst, you might not be able to rely completely on the disclosed documents. May have to go beyond these disclosed or returns or the disclosures filed with the registrar of companies or with any other regulatory bodies. And of course, the complexity arising from multiple businesses with different companies having their cross holdings, cross investments in different companies might be a big challenge to unearth their relationships, unearth the degree of interest one company is having in another company, the flow of funds and profits from one company shareholders to another company. There could be a lot of these things. Many companies, many big business houses indulge in promoting fake companies. You know this, fake companies just to launder money, not only in India, even in other countries. So a company having or a big corporate house having multiple businesses, different types of businesses, businesses with the different regulatory norms, different markets, different locations, different procedures, etc., etc. Might be a big challenge for the valuer to collect all the relevant information, harmonize this information, bring them to a common denominator, then value the company as a whole. That might be a big challenge. That might be a very serious issue in valuation. Then, and of course, acquisitions. We have seen this. Hello, mute your video, probably Sushmita, mute your video. Hello, mute your videos. Mute your videos. If required, I will only unmute. Yeah. So acquisitions, they are not a quick processes. They take a long time to complete. There might be a lot of problems with the exchange ratios, payments, purchase considerations, then the synergy issue, then the final what is that merger, and so this process is a very complex process. You might have observed while studying MACR. It is a big challenge, unlike a company going smoothly without any acquisition, takeover, joint venture, other corporate actions. So these MACR issues, if they are present at the time of valuation, they might pose additional challenges, additional work for the computational and analytical work for the valuer. Then we have hybrid securities. We traditionally have normal simple securities like a equity share, a preference share, or a debenture. But these days you have hybrid securities, right? Securities having multiple features, securities having different features. For example, a non-convertible debenture with warrants, right? Non-convertible debenture with warrants, a convertible debenture with warrant, external commercial borrowings, which were not there earlier. These things are coming up now. And these ADRs and GDRs, earlier those securities were not there. We are used to, suppose we were used to, if we wanted to raise the debt from the market, we used to issue debentures. Now it is not the easiest, the only thing. You can have ECBs, external commercial borrowings. You can raise debt not only from the Indian capital market, but even from abroad. You can raise equity capital not only through your plain and simple equity shares, you can issue ADRs or GDRs, and uh, you can raise the equity capital. Suppose if your company is executing a World Bank funded project, you have SDRs, special drawing rights. That is debt denominated in multiple currencies, not necessarily in domestic currencies. So today, companies, especially big companies quite big in their size and volume, are not content with issuing simple traditional securities to raise the capital from the capital market. They have hybrid securities, very complex securities, securities with very new and innovative and creative features, financial like accounting and other regulatory features. They are coming up with such securities. And for a valuer to understand the meaning, the implication, the impact, and the potential of these securities might be a big challenge. It might not be the cup of tea for every valuer. We need to be really experienced, really versatile in valuing such companies which have issued hybrid securities in addition to or in place of traditional or conventional securities. So these are some of the advanced issues resulting in complexities, resulting in challenges, resulting in problems for the valuer in the process of valuation. Now, shall I go to the next slide? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Now, the next issue could be valuing a company which is in distress. A company doing well, probably everybody's interest and valuers will take a lot of interest in valuing this company. But there might be a company which is sick and which is up for sale, which is put up for sale. So you may have to value. So when a firm encounters distress here we take in terms of financial distress or sickness, which is not temporary. That sickness might not be temporary. It might not be, for example, the problem the companies are now facing, businesses are now facing due to this lockdown and the uncertainty about lifting this lockdown. So this might not be temporary. It might last for next 6 months. It might last for next 1 year. So there is a real chance that it will not survive to deliver the terminal value. Normally, as students of financial management or corporate finance, we know every asset, every company has a terminal value. That is the value which can be salvaged by liquid at the time of liquidation. But there might be certain companies facing certain types of financial distress, which might not be temporary. As a result, by the time this stage is over, the assets of the company might be equal to zero. There might not be any value at all, any value. It is possible, right? If the financial distress is temporary and after 3 months, after 6 months, if the company is able to recoup itself, recover itself, its assets will continue to be used and the assets will continue to have a terminal value. But if the impasse or the distress or the lockdown is say is almost permanent, say running into 2 years, 3 years, and if your machines are not used, if your assets are not used, not put to use, you would get frustrated, isn't it? And once after 3 years, after 4 years, or whatever, when this whole phase is change, then by that time, when you start valuing the assets, they might be valued for zero. They might not be having any value at all. By 3 years or 4 years, those assets might have become redundant. New products might have come, new versions, new models might have come in, and your assets, whether it is plant, equipment, machinery, etc., might have become totally redundant and might not be of any use, might not be having any value in the market. It might fail to get you any terminal value. This is another point to be noted by the valuer while valuing the companies, especially facing prolonged sickness, prolonged distress. For example, you take the example of the Tungabhadra Sugars. It was closed for 10 years. The assets have not been disposed of. State Bank of Mysore at the time, now State Bank of India had lent crores of rupees of funds. Now, if SBI wants to recover its money, and if it wants to sell these assets, those plants, machineries, buildings, vehicles have been reduced to dust, and it will not be able to recover a pie from out of this. Probably only the real estate, the land is the only valuable asset available to SBI to recover the dues owed by the earlier Tungabhadra Sugars. Some of you might have heard about Tungabhadra Sugars, which was working in Maloguppa some time back. Okay, so that is the problem, and such firms tends to be overvalued by the traditional valuation model. So the valuers should be very careful not to go by the traditional conventional approaches, which somehow give you, they take the book value and give you the book value, but the terminal value might be zero. So don't go by your traditional conventional book value approach, right? Look at the reality, look at the terminal value realistically, and based on this, you value the company and its assets. So this is another area of concern, another area of significance for a valuer. That is valuation of companies under prolonged sickness or financial distress, with no prospects of any terminal value. In such situations, ignore your traditional accepted valuation models. Go realistically, take into account or assess the terminal value realistically. Then based on this, project or estimate the value for that company. Now it is always there, the problem with any valuer. Valuation of what is called tangibles is quite simple, comparatively simple, but an organization might be having intangible assets or intellectual properties, especially these days in the area of software, pharma, R&D, etc. You might not be having big tangible assets like buildings, factories, plants, machineries. You might be having a lot of intangible assets like patents, trademarks, copyrights, licenses, franchises, brands. In fact, these are also the assets. They also generate revenue for the company. Companies earn their revenue by using all these things. So these are all you are aware. Intangible assets, they have a place in the books of accounts, they have a place in the balance sheet. Now, valuing these intangible assets could be somewhat tricky. It might not always be simple or direct as you might experience in case of tangible assets. So you can value patents, trademarks, and the copyrights in two ways. You can estimate the expected cash flows, very traditional method, from owning an asset, then apply a risk-adjusted discount rate, normally the weighted average cost of capital, find out their present value, discount the future cash flows, and find out them. Just like your valuation of tangible assets. Apply the same principle, approach, or method to value the intangible assets also. Project their expected future cash flows, discount these future cash flows with an appropriate discount factor, normally the cost of weighted average cost of capital, find out their present value, and with the help of this, you calculate or compute the value of each intangible asset. Alternatively, you can use relative valuation method. The first thing is DCF method. The second, you can apply DCF method for the valuation of intangible assets also, just like you have done what we have done for tangible assets. Alternatively, you can also use relative valuation method. Relative valuation method means valuation of a particular asset or a company comparing with a similar asset or similar company. This is relative valuation. You must have noted this. Herein you apply a suitable multiple. So please keep remembering and noting about this concept of multiples. It keeps coming up quite frequently in this corporate valuation process. Apply a suitable multiple to revenues or income generated by them. So if X brand is generating this much value or this much revenue or this is the value, now I have got my brand Y. So this is generating this much of earnings to me. So what is the value of this brand and process? Compare your brand, compare your copyright, compare your parent with a similar patent, brand, copyright. Find out the earnings. Take the simple multiple of earnings. What is the earnings they are generating? Similar brands, copyrights, or patents are generating. Now, what is the earnings I am getting? For that earnings, what is their valuation? So, extrapolate this. So, to this earnings generated by the patent I have got, what should be the value? So, it is a comparative or relative valuation. Comparing your intangible assets or intangible assets your company is having with similar. Don't compare Lux brand with Maruti brand. No, it is wrong. Compare Lux brand with another brand of another soap manufacturer. The earnings by that brand, earnings by your brand, compare these two. Then what is the valuation of that brand? Already might have been done by somebody. Then apply that same multiple to your earnings by your brand and try to find out the value of your brand. So that's how it is being done. So that completes the advanced issues in valuation, different types of issues, problems, or situations we have examined, list out all these, go through all these issues, a lot of practical problems with the asked in this unit also. So you will be working out these problems. I am left with 1.52 minutes. So I think I should stop sharing this one and come back to you all. Hope you are all there. Allah Baksh has come for the first time. Very, very happy. Vikas has come for the first time. Bhumika has come. Rajesh has come. Anybody else? Are all there? Let's see who else has come. Sneha is there. Then that's all. 31 are present now. Yeah. So thank you all. I am going to end this meeting. So with this, the third unit is complete.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So in the next class, we'll take up unit 4. Okay. So thank you all. Take care.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.